Hey, Yama, g'day. Welcome to the round table. I'm Luna, and this week seated at our table, we have a full table. And in our corner seat, we have Polly. Everyone's muted up at the moment, so I'm just going to say g'day to everyone. We have Polly, and we got Sharon, and we got Connie, and we got Nace, Jules, and Donnie joining us today. And today, the subject is, what is love? We got a big one today. So, what is love? Is it a positive, a negative, or a neutral thing? What effects does it have? Is love visible? And what does it look like? And how deep does it go? At what point does love change from positive to a negative or a neutral? Can anyone recognise love? And does it change when applied to humanity as an individual? And what does it sound like? Can it be too much love and be detrimental to our well-being? Are we born with love? And why do we shout, I hate you, and we whisper, I love you? So here's some questions for tonight, and I'll get you all to say g'day, because I didn't do that. I jumped the gun today. So what do we think, people? What is love? Anybody?
Yeah, I'll start it off. So, I used to like this word a lot, and in the last maybe 10 years, I try not to use it very often, except if I really am consciously thinking about it. It's a word I believe that's been hijacked, just like some of the other words we talked about on the roundtable. I think that, if you look at Valentine's Day, if you look at, some of the Hallmark cards, if you look at movies, if you look at clothes, shoes, all kinds of advertising, go on and on and on and on and on. The word's been hijacked. And I wanted to throw this out here. So, one of my favorite movies ever was Avatar. And the way that that's the one where they are on that moon, right? And they're the blue people, and he inhabits the body. And one of my favorite things from the movie is when they told each other they loved each other, they would look at each other and say, I see you. And there's a scene in there where the human Jake, I think his name was Jake, the character, he'd go in and out of being the avatar. But anyway, the woman that he's in love with, this is towards the end of the movie, and she comes to save him. And she looks at him and she says, I see you. And I just thought, to me, that is love. To actually look into someone's eyes and to look deep within them and to say, I see you. And the feeling that you get from that, and the courage to have someone see you, to me, that's love.
Nice.
Dang.
Connie, you going to say more or just dang? Come on, Connie, cough it up.
No, it reminds me what she just said of something that my neighbor and I discussed at length today, which was when I was in the pit. I mean, not even a pinprick of light of depression. It was after my husband died, and I moved into an apartment, and I lived in my home for years, all that stuff. Anyway, I was in not good shape. And she just kept coming on her lunch hour. And I was like, what is up with this person? I do not want to people right now. I don't like to be seen right now. It hurts to talk. I just wanted to be left silent in my pit because it was excruciating to have any human being see me like that. I couldn't even stand to be in my own skin. Anyway, I started to think about that pit and the people that remembered me when I couldn't even remember me. Like, who was that person who did this, and this? It's like, she's dead. She is gone. I don't know who that person was. And there were very close, intimate people that always remembered the authentic me, no matter how weird I got. They just didn't give up. They just kept calling or texting or sending a card, something that let me know there are people out there who remember you and know you. So that's right along with Sharon's to be seen.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. Some of us are a bit reluctant here. So, all right, I'll chuck a question. So, is love positive, negative, or neutral? This is where I want to hear from Nacy. Well, I suppose it can be all positive, negative, neutral. Depends how it's applied and how it's generated from the person. For me, it's a tricky path. I'm a great believer in unconditional love. I think that's the safest. It can be a tricky path, love.
And I would like to know, Luna, what you mean when you say unconditional love.
Unconditional love, okay. I suppose for me it was a little journey. I realised that expecting others to love me was not the go. How can I expect someone to love me? One, I need to love myself and be my own best friend. And two, how it's rude of me to expect another to give me their love to fill up my heart. So I set about filling my heart in a different way, and what I realised is when I didn't rely on human love, that there's a creator's love, and that comes through. You can see that in nature. It'll come through in nature. It'll come through in little ways. That filled my heart till it burst out with joy, and I wanted to share that love with everyone else.
Yes.
And I realised, standing in that love, all the little faults that we all have, you don't see them. You just love that person regardless of their faults. You accept them for who they are with their faults. That's who they are, and that's why you love them also, for their good things and their bad things. It's like an entirety. If I move out of that love, then I get into trouble because I either become selfish because I want love, or I'll smother someone because I want to give it to you.
Yes, that is so me. Oh my gosh.
And I realised...
Thank you, Luna. I just learned something about myself just now.
Because we love so much, we tend to throw it around a little bit without being mindful of what energy we're given.
Ooh.
There is a saying of, I love you to death, or you can suffocate someone with too much love.
Isn't that when love doesn't stay? I think that's when it turns into something different.
Yeah, and that's what I always said when we apply it, how it changes when we apply it to a human and their individuality. I think this is where we see different faces in love, because what I feel and think and happen to me is different to what's happened to you and the way you feel and think. So a simple example would be, I'll show my love, I'll make you some food, and you'll look at it and that's not a way to show your love. I'm going to take you out somewhere and spend 3 or 4 hours with you. That's showing love. Do you understand how we can see giving love is different depending on how we are?
We have to look at love in context to understand people's primary language of love. For some people, it's acts of service. So that was my husband. He got home, can I get you tea? And to him, that was me showing love. My primary language is affection. So we spoke different primary languages of love, and we had to learn and honor each other's.
Yeah. And I think that's when you move more into unconditional, because you start to have more respect and more, responsibility for your love and how you deliver it and where it comes from within you.
Oh, Luna, say that one more time, please.
more responsibility for your love, how you deliver it, and where it comes from within you.
Thank you. Wow, that's really
And it's
good.
easy to know where you are in love. When you love your cats and your favourite plant outside, that's unconditional, man. You love them. It doesn't matter that the cat shits in your yard next to the favourite flower. You don't worry about that. You just love your cat and you love your flower, right? That you overlook all those silly things. All right, someone else, come on. I don't want to
Yeah,
drown.
we're Polly. Daisy, where are you guys?
Yeah, they're being
And
quiet.
Jules.
Notice the
Jules, I haven't heard from you
Well,
today.
I didn't realize that we had started, so I didn't want to jump in. And I didn't really do a lot of thinking behind the scenes with this, but for me, I would say that love is definitely a vibration. It's definitely an energy, and it's definitely an emotional feeling, a connection. There's a lot to it that I can't just break it down because love kind of overflows, and if you in many different things. If you enjoy doing something, there's something about it that you love doing, whether it's stimulation or challenge or a connection. I mean, again, I just walked in late after we started, and that was on my mind of the vibration. For more so lately in the past few months, I've noticed it's definitely a vibration.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I also would submit here that I think it would be very interesting within our own hearts. Well, I can't speak for everybody else. I'll speak for me. I feel like I can't use that word. Like, I'll do I try to do some kind of prayer or something in the morning. Well, inevitably you're going to get the word love, and my skin crawls, and I feel like for me the word's been hijacked. And I was listening to Jay Widener today with Robert Phoenix, and they were talking about Aquarius and the Pisceans, and they were talking about my generation, probably, well, not just my generation, but probably people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, because they were talking about all the love light crowd, right, in the 70s and 80s, how we had Est and Lifespring, and we had all the metaphysical books and all that kind of stuff. Well, the powers that should not be, as Nase calls them, knew and know that we would be going through this time right now. This is according to Robert and what's his face, and so what they did is they infiltrated, as they've infiltrated everything. They infiltrated that crowd, and I was a part of that, a huge part of that, and they hijacked it so that they could own it because they didn't want the people in that crowd, in that group of people, to continue to grow because it had a different tone before they hijacked it. And I'm inviting myself right now to reclaim words, thoughts, and actions for myself so that I'm not at the effect of, and Luna brought this up about a month ago, their black magic.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no love in that.
Hello, everybody.
The corners. Hey, Polly. Welcome. So,
Hi,
Yeah.
Paul.
you heard
I
what...
just want to. I want to start off by reading a quote.
Please.
And it goes like
Okay.
this. Okay, it goes like this. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Baby, don't hurt me no more.
And I was going to sing that, but it's morning here and my voice is
Well,
croaky.
that's
What
the
is
entire
love?
song, literally.
Don't hurt me.
I waited for
Don't
someone else
hurt
to
me.
take that opportunity, and yeah, so
Nah, good on
no
you,
one
Polly.
took it. I had to say it. Sorry.
Um,
But here's what I think about what love is, because it's really hard to for most people, it's really hard to describe using words. And I came up with an analogy that I think is like the most accurate way that I can describe it is if you think of all your senses, right? They're like receptors and interpreters of information that are coming in. Well, love works like a sense in a way, but it goes the other way. It goes out from in you instead of taking in information. I guess it's expressing information, and I think it's more like an instinct that everybody's kind of born with. You instinctually have the ability to love because it's like a sense. It's just part of who we are.
Anybody else think that love is numeric?
No,
No, only
I've
when
never thought of
I
it that
I
way.
only say that because if you envision looking at a drawing of a heart, if you do the number two and write it back and draw it backwards, and then do a normal two, you've essentially just written a heart, just drawn a heart.
True. I thought you meant, is it numeric, like people say, how much do you love me? And I scratch my head going, how do I measure that? And then I make a joke and go this much and make a little tiny p.
I just hear the word numbers and my brain freezes.
Yeah. Can you measure love? While we're at this subject and this point, can you measure love? Do you think you can measure love? Or is it unmeasurable?
How do you measure feeling?
I think love
I
can also be
do.
a cool acronym for living over vibrational expectations.
Oh, vibrational expectations. Dang, that's a mouthful.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Is
Well, so if you're living over vibrational expectations, you're going to be constantly vibrating high and trying to share that vibration with others so that they too can be on the same vibrational level.
I got that.
And they reckon that love is the highest vibration of all. What do you reckon about that?
Well, it probably is.
yeah.
It was here before language.
Mm.
It's inherent in Mother Nature.
And
I mean, animals show love to not only humans but one another all the time.
true
So
that,
I
yeah.
mean, it's a very primitive thing. It's almost as if life itself probably wouldn't have a friggin' hope in hell without love.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel
Say
that.
that one more time, Polly.
Maybe I'll reword it. Life would have a hard time without love.
Yeah, I like that. No, I love that. Because without love,
It's true, because
uh,
you can have a baby if you
things
don't.
are really bleak. There's no meaning for me. Without love, what is the point
True.
of
You,
anything, really?
when you have a baby, if you don't show it love and you just do the thing like you feed it, bath it, stick it in the corner or in the chair outside, whatever, and you don't show love at all, that baby will die, even though you're feeding
You
it and
know,
everything.
Luna, I thought about that, people talk about abuse and they think of it as bruises or throwing a baby up against the wall. And the first time I ever heard neglect is abuse, it shocked me. Like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Because whether you pass that baby and say, oh, I'll feed it in a few hours, and then 5 hours go by, in a couple hours, that's neglect. Abuse would just be, fuck the baby, I don't care. I'm sorry, that's terrible to say in the same.
Yeah, no, what I was getting at, Connie, I've seen where They'll feed the baby at the right time, but they'll give the bottle and they'll put the baby in the bedroom, shove the bottle in its mouth. You know how you prop it up with a pillow or something?
Yes.
And walk out and leave it. They'll change the baby.
It's called
Then they'll
failure
stick.
to thrive.
Yeah, that's it. They'll stick the baby in the pram, but they won't interact with the baby. They won't cuddle or say, I love you,
That
and all that
baby will
normal
lose
stuff. Yeah.
weight and curl up
They
and
die. Yeah, I've
without
seen it happen.
touch.
I've seen it happen to animals. I've seen it happen to people.
Yes, it's essential.
It is. It's I akin love to the air that we breathe. It's like the breath of life to our soul.
It is. And to our spirits.
Yeah.
There is no spirit without love.
So
Well, it'd be a dark spirit.
I'm looking at it now, and I think I wrote down it's actually alive and it has its shape, like it's taking shape now. Is love visible? Well, it is now. We've just gave it a shape and a form. It's
Are we making a tulpa?
I love Tulpa. Maybe that's what the world needs. Send them out there. I said this yesterday, but I'll say it now. One thing I'm noticing about the world right now, strangers are coming up to each other, hugging each other, saying, I love you, stay strong, we're going to do this. I felt like I was in heaven the other day because I looked at my week and it was full of strangers hugging me, going, I love you, stay strong, and I was saying the same to them. And I thought, when I was a young girl, this is what I wanted the world to be like. But I didn't expect all the negativity to have to push people into doing it, but we're doing it. And it was lovely, like just to see people that haven't even met each other recognise you're with me and bond straight away. Take care, love you, give me a hug, see you later. It's just amazing. Amazing. Okay, so what's next? Love has a shape, we can see it.
That shape, you can see it in that guy's experiments on the frozen water. That's a perfect example.
Yes.
If you look at the difference between the frozen water that had the word love written on the jar and then the frozen water that had the word hate written on the jar.
Yes.
The pattern in the love jar is I said love jar. The pattern in the love jar is perfect Fibonacci sequence, snowflake type crystals, and in the hate jar, it's all pretty much chaos and no pattern whatsoever, and it's very discombobulated and not unified, and it's the complete opposite of what you would expect from freezing water.
And that brings me to why people yell out I hate you and whisper I love you. Because when they do that, if they yell out, I love you, as I'm yelling to you, all the molecules in your body, that water molecules, will change to that beautiful shape in your body and make you healthy and strong.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yep, and if I yelled out, I hate you, then it would be the other experiment where the little thing is all yucky. Why do we do this? Why do people yell, I hate you, and whisper, I love you? And honestly, I'm the kind of person I would stand on the roof and yell out, I love you. I've got no shame in that. Why do people whisper, I love you, and yell out? Can someone help me understand this?
Well,
I've actually whispered I hate you under my mask to a lot of people.
That's of late, yeah. That was in the last 2 years.
maybe that when you whisper something, it in some ways it has special meaning. Again, going back to my thing about wanting to have special meaning, if you use that word, if you decide to use the love word, you want it to mean something. You want it to come from your heart, right? So if I say I love you to people, I'm really thinking about that. I mean that. That's not just a word I'm throwing out there because of how I feel about all of it. So it means something to me, and I think about it. And whispering can be reverence. That when you say hate and you say it out loud, usually it's anger or fear, right? I mean, if we hate something or someone, it's anger or fear or disturbance of some kind. So you lash out, right? And your voice goes up. It's a form of slugging somebody without actually touching them.
True. Now you
I
can't.
can get that way if I feel cornered
Sure.
or at all um, someone's really being obnoxious to me and it's a mood. And if I've had enough, then I've had enough. And sometimes it's the last straw, the last little stupid thing said that I'll just turn around and I just let loose. And I'm not proud of that. And I have asked God, let my tongue stick to the roof of my mouth. I don't know what this temper thing is, but it's got to go. It's not good. And it's the opposite of regarding and honoring people just because they're humans and they deserve that basic respect, to be treated with respect. I may not know them and I may not respect them, but I think I need to treat everyone with a basic kindness and respect.
Yeah, I agree. What about when I've been in a situation where I've gone up to a really big tough guy, reached my hand out, touched him on the chest where his heart is, put energy in his heart to make it come alive, and he's freaked out like I've held a gun to him or something. It amazes me people's reactions. What that told me was it scared the shit out of him. Love scared the shit out of him. It was like I was a big
It
scary
is
monster.
so powerful.
It is.
Love is, scripture says, heap hot coals of fire on their head with kindness. Because when someone's doing the dance of hate, rage, anger, all by themselves, they start to feel a little silly.
True.
But if you join in their steps,
Very silly.
no, they'll go into jitterbugging and throwing you around. But if you don't dance their steps, they don't understand and they're thrown off their game because they're used to hate
Yeah, they
and disrespect and disregard.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you brought up the word responsibility earlier, and
Yeah.
if someone loves you, isn't that a responsibility of sorts?
Yes, it is.
Right? A very deep responsibility.
Very.
And I goes along with awake versus woke. You know, the more you're awake, again, you're going to take that responsibility very serious.
True. And what for the saying of drunk with love? Has anyone ever been drunk with love?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Totally intoxicated.
Remember Tom Cruise jumping on Oprah's couch over
Oh
Katie
Lord,
Holmes?
I think he was on that adrenochrome.
Well, but
Freaking
to me,
having
that
his
was, but there is drunk with love. I mean, you know what I mean? It was silly, but it was kind of amusing too.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
have you ever not felt that way about somebody? I have.
Is
I think
that
gone
an up
over
or
show.
what?
it's intoxicating.
It
Like
is.
my
It'll
first
make,
love.
it'll make you lose your appetite. It'll make you do things that you wouldn't usually do.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of like it in your own mind without you even knowing it. It's a chemical that's secreted where you have all these extra endorphins that just give you a
Okay.
high.
Yeah.
What are we
I love
describing?
those highs.
What are we describing here? Because we don't have that kind of reaction with other things.
I think we are describing, I looked up all the Greek types of love. I like that because they are so good at distinguishing and having a very separate word for the different types of love. So we would be describing eros or sexual passion. It's lust. I mean, you just freaking feel it and just screw logic. I'm in it.
Right. Yeah, and what's the name of that doctor that comes on and talks to Kev all the time? You know, the guy, he's the older guy with the funny hat. I can't remember his name.
Dr.
Older.
Miller.
Yeah, okay. Miller has talked on Kev's show a number of times talking about how powerful sexual energy is. And
Oh, yes, ma'am.
and so it's like love, especially when you're younger, it hits every part of you.
Oh,
It
yes.
and it hits
Hormones
that
are racing.
sexual part of yourself. And he said you can change the universe by channeling that energy. It's a pretty intense energy.
Yeah, this is where I'm not going to say much. No,
Well, I
say.
mean, all I'm saying is it. I'm not going to go deep into the sexual part of it, but
Yeah.
all I'm saying is we're talking about that overwhelming feeling of love. And when you feel like that about somebody, it sort of overtakes everything. And it's probably a lot of common sense, usually.
Is there unconditional love in that?
If your feet touch the ground,
Maybe, maybe not. It's nothing to do with logic. It's all to
right,
do with hormones and feelings.
right.
And just dang, I don't care. I just want him.
Yeah,
Period.
that kind of love for me typically doesn't fall in the unconditional category. It's a
Nah.
Right.
flash in your
Yeah,
pan or a fling kind of thing.
right. I agree. I
That's
agree.
not,
Yeah, it's
that's
not
not love at
unconditional.
all.
I want to hear from the men about this. Come on.
That's not love at all. That's just your primeval attraction to the male physical body and attributes that are desirable in a suitable mate. That's not love. That's attraction.
But it still
Um,
feels like it.
well, it's tricky because there comes a
Twinkie.
point. There comes a point where love becomes like more than an attraction, and then it becomes an obsession. And to me, that's kind of a diluted form of love. Like it can
Hmm.
start as innocent, but it's kind of on the road to delusion, in my opinion.
And you know what? There's a Greek word for love for the obsessive kind of love. Did you know that? I didn't.
What is
Yeah.
it? What's
Wait,
this?
It's called mania.
It's what?
Mania.
Oh, mania. Yeah.
Mania is obsessive love.
Wow, I didn't know that. I've heard
The
of
Greeks have a word for everything.
I've heard
I
of
I love how the Greeks broke down all the different loves. And wait, here's a quote from Eric Fromm, whoever that is. He's some psychoanalyst person. Okay, and we don't care about him, but this was good. We spend too much energy on falling in love and need to learn more how to stand in love.
There you go.
And I heard years ago, and it always stuck with me, love is something that you just do. You don't always feel it, you just do it. And that helped me immensely.
Right.
And if
And
you're
I
gonna
think that
stand in
that
love,
that,
don't
that
be afraid to get your feet wet.
right. And I think that goes closer to unconditional.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Guys are
like that
talking about.
one. Yeah.
The Greeks considered agape, unconditional love,
That was the word I was
as the highest form of love.
Hmm.
It's like Creator's love.
Right.
He died for us while we were yet enemies. It's nothing to do about our performance. It's because we each have in us imprinted an empty space where the Creator wants to fill. And He's always going, that eternal part of us before we ever had flesh and blood knit on our bones. We are eternal beings, and we always were and always will be. That's our eternal imprint of Creator that we long to be reconnected with.
Yeah.
And I'm climbing down off my soapbox now.
Okay.
No, that was very good.
it was good to see everyone went silent. In these discussions, we always have moments of silence where truth reigns and we don't say anything. Okay, so we talked about being drunk with love. What effects does it have? I'm looking at love. I don't think we yield it properly. We have all these other energies that we yield and we've harnessed and we've used to enhance our lives, whether it be physically or spiritually. And I truly don't think that we harness love enough and use it to enhance our lives. I think once, a long, long time ago, in the past, we had a better idea. And we're at the moment on the path to recovering the full meaning of unconditional love and the other faces of love. And I think what's happening in the world today is perfect to shake us up and reassess what love is. And because we're all looking in, we need it. We know that the world is lacking it right now. How can we see that? Like, I look around, how do our eyes know it's not love?
Well, I mean, I'm going to go back to my thesis on this whole thing is, at least for me, is that because I've been consciously working on this for the last year or so, is that I have to think about when I choose to not be, to resist the word in the prayer, and when I choose to embrace it and why. Because I'm very consciously thinking, I don't want to use that word right now, or I don't like that. It's uncomfortable. It makes me, and again, until we started doing these roundtables, I didn't consciously realize how many of our words have been hijacked. How much of our, not just our words, but our language and our thinking and the way we operate, and to the degree, I mean, obviously it's obvious what's going on, but even words, even love, even being a mom, or some of the other things that they're doing. And maybe it comes down to individually, which is what I do when I'm doing these prayers, is what word makes me feel like if I was to swap it out of the prayer. Like if I'll put in grace. I love the word grace. I just love that word.
What does grace, Sharon, what does grace mean to you?
Hey, that's next week's word.
What? Say that again. What?
I'm joking. I said that's next week's word.
Oh, awesome.
Okay.
Actually,
we'll save it till next week.
No, it's all right.
I'll throw to me what it is my people that I've known that exhibit it. They are gracious beyond the normal. That they respect others. They don't lose their temper. This is kind of what you were talking about, Connie. That they have this ability to transcend the things that are going on around them and show others give others the space for them to just be themselves and seemingly without judgment. And to me, that's graciousness that I can embrace, because I've always had a personality that jumps out and says things, not necessarily being able to pull them back. So I understand what you're saying. I've always had to monitor my words. So I've practiced, how can I be more gracious?
Careful, because I have been praying about this whole thing. Like, what's up with this temper? I don't want this. It's not really very, it's just not me. But there's times I just want to bitch slap someone. And it's like, what is wrong with me? And
but maybe there's nothing wrong with you. It's just the time. I mean, I've been giving myself crap about it for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Because I just want to say things that I normally would not have said. These are difficult times, Connie. There's things going on out there that are ridiculous. And
you think? Oh my gosh.
And
we're being in the twilight zone.
We are, and it's isolating. And so again, I have to stand back and be gracious and shut the hell up. Like consciously, I keep telling myself, shut the hell up. You can't, I can't be out there telling other people how to live their lives.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
that's all I'm
then on
saying.
the other hand, I have this thing in me that I'm like, I I've given it I'm working on just releasing my tight grip on everything that I thought I needed to hold tightly to, because it hurts less when it's taken out of your hand, which you don't have control. I do not have control over most of the things that I fret, worry, and burden me. I can't change, but I can change my response to it. And that's the journey for me.
Right.
It's not, all important what's been said or done to you. How are you reacting or responding thoughtfully?
Yeah.
So I was listening to you talking actually this week, so I was going to have Grace as the what is, but that song What Is Love kept coming in my head, so I put What Is Love for this week. But you got me thinking now, because we've said words that is love, like grace is love, beauty is love. Do you get what I'm getting at? And I think
Yep.
it was Polly or somebody said yesterday that what we've already talked about, truth, belief, wisdom, and courage is all part of love. It actually contains all them words. It's becoming a living entity of its own.
If I may go back to just the word itself, there's a lot of really cool things in the word itself. But as far as words go, I would say that love has probably been overused more times than any other word in the history of words. And then there's a reason for that, I think. And the reason is because the more meanings you give a word, the more meanings you give a word, the more meaning you take out of it. Because they don't really want us to realize the actual significance of the word itself. Because it's almost hard to quantify it in a word. And the only reason why we have it is, I think, in my opinion, the word love comes from the word live, because it's one letter apart. Just change the second vowel, right? So it goes from an O, which could be, it could stand for one in a lot of sayings, one love, and the I could be like me. So it's like you're not really capable of giving any love to anybody if you don't love yourself first.
I was just thinking the
So
same.
there's something in that, I think, and I still think that the word love, even if we take out all the other meanings they've given it, it still doesn't really explain what exactly that it is.
True. And that's what we're trying to find today. What does it
And
look like? What does
remember,
it feel
Polly,
like?
I asked you, would it be easier to define what it isn't than what it is?
Yeah, but you could say that about anything. Anything's easier to tell what it isn't than what it is, especially if you don't know what it is exactly.
What it is.
You're damn right.
Well, so far it is this thing with many faces, and it can be quiet, it can be loud, it can be sharp, it can be smooth. We're all blind and feeling one part of this thing. Love is blind. There's another thing. I have witnessed blind love. Love is blind. Love wipes
It is,
over your
though.
head and eyes so much. You look at something, you can't see any faults in it because all you can see is all the good things. And then slowly that blinder gets lifted, and then you go, shit, I didn't see that before. Oh, look, that's all damaged. Oh, look at that, look at that. Why is that so?
Luna,
Do we do that to ourselves, or is it an inbuilt program to make us, kickstart us into the path of love?
in scripture it says that love covers a multitude of sins, or sins being defined as missing the mark, weaknesses, faults, where you're not whole. And I think love does cover a multitude of sins. And then I wonder what happens that we start seeing all these picky things, and then they start getting on our last nerve. And we didn't even see them before, but now, dang, you getting on my last nerve.
So, and this is where you test your love, because you come in, you go, well, you know, you walked into this with love, and usually you're talking about a partnership here, because you've got to spend 24/7 with that person, and you start seeing the little cracks. But when you see the little cracks, that's when you actually need the love, because you need the love
Yeah.
to help understand how to manage things, and you know what I mean, to tolerate those things.
Okay, let me pull out my Greek meaning for mature love. This is a deep understanding which develops between, it says long married partners, but I'll just say long together partners. And it's giving up, it's showing patience and tolerance, and you compromise for the sake of the relationship, for the we instead of me.
Well, there's no I in love.
You know, but
Dang, Luna, why'd you have to say that?
I
You
don't
just
know.
messed
I'm in a
me
cheeky
up.
mood today. Leave me alone.
Luna, you told a story about 3 weeks ago where you saw something in this woman's relationship. She had just had the baby, and you knew something
Oh
about the
yes,
guy,
yeah, and
right? And you were quiet, and you said you wanted her. You felt like it was important for her to have that love experience
yeah,
with the husband and the baby to help ground the baby.
yes,
And
yes,
so, in responding to your comment a few minutes ago, maybe the love was there, especially for the baby, that she could surround the baby and love the husband for as long as she needed to, or till she could, until it was time for her to see what she needed to see, because that was the best thing for the baby. And that to me is unconditional love.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and that's what I had to weigh up.
I'd like to go back to a little bit more wordplay, because love's often paired with other words, right? Like love and compassion, love and understanding, and that's the one I want to talk about. Because love and understanding, they go hand in hand. And what I want to point out is that understanding can mean two things. It can mean obviously the comprehension of something, but the way they also use that word understanding is you're standing under the power of, submissive to. So it's kind of cool that they pair that word with love, because when you were talking about being, unconditional, I mean, that's like, it's something else that's controlling your action. The power of love is doing it. You don't even have to think about it, sort of thing. So in a way, you are under some kind of power. It's like an instinct. It's a reflex. You get the more you try to fight it, the more sick you'll get.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, that thought just went out. Boom. Wow, this is interesting. Okay, so where are we at? We've established many things. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh, look, we're stuck. Gee, Polly, you stumped us. Where's them crickets? um.
5.
Okay, so. Oh man, I'm lost for words now. Come on, Naysay, jump in. You haven't said nothing yet. I knew this would be a tricky subject.
Yeah, it's not,
Loving
it's not
yourself.
an easy one.
Yep, loving yourself. Here we go. So we've talked about giving our love to others and being responsible for our love and recognising whether it's in a positive way or negative way or neutral way. What about when it comes to applying it to ourselves? And we said a bit earlier that we should really love ourselves before we expect someone else to love us. And what I found with people is that loving yourself is like usually the last thing on your list and the hardest thing, because they can't even look in the mirror and say, hey, you, I love you, you're my best friend.
It's because that's considered, like, I remember hearing, don't say that to her, she's going to get a big head or whatever. And I don't think we can affirm, if it's not flattery and it's sincere. It's so rare. People say the stuff they don't like to people, but very rarely will people speak all the wonderful things that run through their mind about someone. Ah! Polly just said, here's my crickets.
I know.
Oh my God, I have Amazon-sized crickets. I swear, they're all crazy. I think they look like fake ones. You know how crickets are little?
Yeah.
There was one in my kitchen. Oh my God. I said, what are we in the effing Amazon? I couldn't believe the size of this thing. Anyway, I have one in my bedroom.
Prosperity.
And I know it's not outside. It's inside because I go, hey, really loud, and it shuts up for a second. Then it just gets more excitable. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done.
You're right.
Jules is raising her little paw.
Oh.
Aw, the kitty is raising its paw. Jules, speak it, girl.
So I'm just sitting here observing and listening, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but there is an intimacy with love when it's true and it's real. It can feel very personal. That's why sometimes we whisper I love you instead of yelling it, because it's more intimate, it's more one-on-one. And loving oneself, you have to be intimate with yourself. You have to intimacy into me, I see. And when you find the self-love, then it pours outward and it's a vibration and everybody reacts to it.
I think you have to forgive yourself too. You have to be really good at forgiving yourself and letting yourself off the hook.
I would agree with that.
If I treated myself like I treat those that are dear to me, I mean, I'd have it made. And I don't understand why it's so difficult to see ourselves accurately, not to think higher of ourselves or lower of ourselves, but just accurately. It's so much easier for me to see others than how others see me.
You know what I think has been really interesting about this whole seeing yourself on video all the time, like at work, or being even on Kev's show. So we're using Zoom and we're using all this technology, Google Meets and all this. Well, you're always looking at yourself. You can always see yourself on video. It has been so enlightening to see myself all day long, because we don't see ourselves. I'm not in the mirror. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like we can see others. We hear others. We see their faces, all this kind of stuff. What's interesting is I have an opportunity sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day to see when I'm frowning, to see how my face looks, to see how my voice sounds. And then what I've been doing is recording the meetings so I can self-teach myself about what they're asking me to do. Like they'll say, okay, we're going to show you how to do this. Well, I record it, so I don't have to ask them to repeat it over and over, right? But I hear my voice and I hear the questions. So it's a third way of looking at myself. It has been very enlightening. And I wonder, Connie, if the real issue here is we don't ever really get to see or hear ourselves played back, and we're not so bad. You know, you have this crap you throw in your head, and then you go back and listen. Sometimes you are as bad as you think, but most of the time you're not so bad.
You know, it was like, I don't know, 6 months ago, somebody I was listening to posed the question, list at least 5 ways you failed to honor yourself. And I usually love those challenges. Like, come on, girl, you got all the answers. And I couldn't touch that thing. It was like, no, not yet. And I just put it away, and I'd pull out my little, where I always just write stuff down. And I just realized it was painful how easily I dishonored myself by the things that I tolerated, that I really should have drawn a line and said, no, this far, no further, period. No discussion, no being reasonable. It is what it is. But that's like one of my inner false beliefs. You must be reasonable. That's like an idol to me. You have to be reasonable. Well, some situations are freaking unreasonable. So why should I be reasonable?
You know, Connie, I was going to bring this up. There's a point where with love, I've experienced it more as a parent, where you love the child, but you have to have responsibility and draw some sort of line, because you're trying to educate and care for that child, and they might be being naughty, or they might want to do something that could be detrimental to them, and you love them. But how can I put it? So in loving them, you're telling them that it's wise not to do this, or it's wise to do that, and it doesn't sound like that beautiful love that's, oh, you know, I love you so much. It's got a different face. It's a more stern face. It's more like a neutral love, where it's not.
It's called, I'm your parent and not your best buddy.
Yeah, so
This is my responsibility.
Yeah.
If I failed to do this, I failed.
I'm not
my
being loving.
highest calling.
Yeah, and you're not
what
truly
I
being
invest
loving.
in my children.
That energy applied to yourself and sometimes others in the world, I see that as a balance. It's how can I put it? It's not too mushy and it's not too hard. It's a nice balance where you can deliver things and get things happen. And I think we need more
took
of that kind
divorce
of
and my
balance.
husband to die and moving out of my home. It took me being yanked totally out of my comfort zone to begin to learn what you're talking about.
Yeah. I akin it to, we got a flower up here, but there's thorns on the rose bush. The rose bush represents love, but there are thorns. Those thorns are what I'm talking about here, where you got to be tough. It's kind of tough love, what Jules said. But yeah, I think we need more of it. I think when you dive into love, you get all mishy-mushy first, and then you start to sober up a bit in it and walk with it better.
You know, I think if we had the wisdom when we were young that we have now, first of all, I would have never gotten married. Second of all, I would have said I'm not made of the right stuff for marriage. Second of all, I would have never had children. If I could have seen.
Love you, Connie.
Hi, Sid. How you be?
So keep going, Connie.
This is
I'm fine.
So you got up to never having kids, Connie. But you wouldn't be Connie. Who would you be?
Exactly.
Everything that I have been through, I just now I wouldn't ever want to change anything because it's taught me more than it's taken from me. It gave me depth that I never would have had, an understanding of humans that I never would have had to dig so deep to get for myself so I could survive things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because I'm looking at us all, and I see that when we come to this world, we have love in us. The Creator gave us love, of course, and then we walk our path, and I see that we all individually need different things, and so someone might need more hugs and cuddles in this life. Another person might need more support from people, loving support in voice and action. Do you know what I'm saying? Another person might need lots of people around them in this life to generate that love path. And I look at people.
It's multifaceted,
Yes.
is what I'm hearing from you, Luna.
Yes, yes.
It must be. It has to be. It has to be resilient, flexible, or if it's rigid, it's not love.
Yeah.
Love is fluid.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is fluid and it flows. So we're this is what it looks
Reach
like
out
now.
if you want a hug right now.
Beg your pardon, Sid.
I want a hug.
So yeah, love obviously it's fluid, so it's like a fluid energy. We're starting to see what it actually looks like now.
It's living.
It's
And who said vibration, Jules? It's a thing you know in your gut. And it's not always feelings. Like I remember like being married 36 years, you know, you kind of hate sometimes that person that you love, you just don't like them anymore sometimes. Anyway, I knew, you know, so when I was feeling like, ugh, he's home, like when that stuff started, I would do something extra nice, like make his favorite foods or just something special. And that's when I told myself, you got to do the opposite right now of what you're feeling because your feelings are fickle and you can't trust them. They can change from 1 hour to the next. So, yeah. And intention is in love because when I would do acts of kindness towards people I wasn't feeling kindly towards, my feelings changed. I felt better about them. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I always said that if you're not feeling good, go and do something for someone else and make them feel good, and that'll make you feel better.
True.
All right. So, any more? What have we got here? This is, yeah, different. So we spoke about the effects love has. We realised it can be visible and it's actually got a form, shape, texture. It has a sound. It can be loud. It can be quiet. Quiet. Actually, one day I was out in the garden and I was talking upstairs and they were talking about loving messages, and I've got this little wind chime out the back. But this little wind chime, it's like a miniature one. It's like a fairy wind chime. For it to work, a very, very soft wind has to touch it. So you've literally got to blow on it real soft for it to go ding. And I'm in the garden and I heard this ding, And as they dinged, they said to me, sometimes the strongest things are as quiet as this. And I thought, wow, that's like love. Sometimes love can be so quiet and just a whisper, but the energy that comes off it is like an atomic bomb. And I found that to be amazing. Has anyone experienced that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It can be like that. Absolutely. I think as we get older, we look at not wanting to get too crazy in the love, but be more grounded with it, like Polly was talking about, and have it surround us. You know, I find it really interesting. There are moments that I can feel this sort of warmth with Einstein, my cat. You know, anybody that's a pet lover. I mean, usually you love your pets unconditionally because they're never talking back to you. So
And they
they're just
worship you. Are
they
you
worship
kidding
you.
me?
Cats a lot less than the puppies.
Oh, my dogs looked at me like the goddess. I loved
That's what
it.
I'm saying. Yeah, we worship the cats, and the people that have dogs get worshipped. But my point is that there's moments that they do something that is so precious, you can actually feel the vibration in your body.
True.
Yeah.
It's just this sense of warmth, and you know, and if you're lucky, especially right now with all the things that are going on, to have that feeling come into your life now. You know, with different, like Luna, before the show, you were talking about people coming up to you and hugging you and saying, "Hey, hang in there. We're going to get through this."
Yeah.
And today I had no mask on and I was running around doing errands, and I feel so much better to reach out to people and talk to them. Like, one of the things I'm noticing in the grocery stores, and this is just happens to be where I am right now, people are very grateful. The checkers are grateful for you to reach out and pack the groceries in the bags. And we haven't been able to, we weren't allowed to do that for almost a year and a half, right? And now we can. Now we can. So I grab the bag, I start packing the bag. I'm talking to those guys. They still have to wear masks everywhere I go. Everyone that works in all the stores, every single one of them have to wear masks. So I talk to them. I pack my groceries. It gives me a different experience of being with the cashier, and I think the cashier is grateful. And I'm not asking them to be grateful, but it's a different communication. And
Oh
I
yeah.
just noticed today it was so much more pleasurable for me to do shopping without that stupid thing on my face, and then being able to
Wow.
reach out and actually be a human again and
Yeah.
touch the bag
Yeah.
and throw the groceries in it and, you
And
know,
it's
feel,
normal.
yeah, normal,
It
some normal
feels
stuff.
just normalcy.
And being able to
Yeah, and
smile.
I'm beginning to think I would actually throw normal down as love at this point.
Ha! What is normal?
It brings
Whatever it is
tears.
to you, whatever normal is to you feels like love right now. And
I
Luna,
noticed.
Luna
I
to me
noticed.
seems like a hug bug, a hug bunny. So that's normal for Luna.
It
So this
is,
is going to
yeah.
feel like love for Luna.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sharon, it brings me to tears when I see just a mom and her child sharing an ice cream cone and giggling. Things I would have never noticed before. Oh my God, they're like precious treasures. It's like, oh, look, they're not masked and they're just loving each other and they're in the moment. It's a miracle. Like, it is.
And
Our
you,
world has been so turned upside down
Yeah.
that
Project.
we are extremely sensitive to acts of kindness and just love, acts of love. The most simple things.
We also
I'll just
become more
cry.
sensitive to acts of the other kind.
Yes, that's exactly right, Sid.
so how would we teach love? The world's in turmoil at the moment. It needs love. They recognise it. How would we teach it to them? What about the generation that's coming up in another 30 years' time?
Tell each other to say it's okay to give each other a hug now and then. Tell some, almost like CW Chanter says on YouTube. If anybody haven't told you I love you today, then I tell you now.
Beautiful. I
That
love
is
you too,
nice.
Sid.
It is.
I love you too, Sid. I love you, Sharon. I love you, Polly. I love you, Nancy. I love you, Nanette. I love you. I love you, Kevin. I love you, Jules. I love you, Jose. I love you, Jocelyn. I love you.
But
Okay, Mike. I love you, Connie.
it's as simple as that. Yeah.
So,
And people
I don't.
hear it, and they hear it from people they know that, might mean it or talk with a little bit, and that helps quite a bit. Huh?
You know, it's really interesting. I just thought of this, and I think it's because it goes back to Polly saying it's kind of instinctual because
Yeah.
I was a mental health therapist, and my very first job right out of school, but I was 40. I was a late bloomer in academics. Anyway, my kids came first. What can I say? Except thank you. Anyway, um, I did in home therapy. All right. So you went to their home and you're in their home 4 to 6 hours a week. So, like, any pretense goes away really fast. Why did I bring this up? I forget. Oh, yeah, because most of those clients did not care about your degrees, letters, numbers after your name. They sensed instinctually whether you were genuine or you were hiding behind your little clinical titles, which they hated, really. They didn't trust any of it. So
So it doesn't matter what you do or who you are, as
But
long as
excuse me,
people
Sid.
do,
Wait,
as long as
Sid.
people like you and as people say I love you, give a little bit of a hug or something, that goes a long way.
As long as they instinctually knew I was being me, the same me I am right now, I was with my clients. They trusted me right away. They knew I wasn't like all the others, that they were taught and learned themselves. Do not trust them. They're full of shit. Because
Mhm.
nothing they say applies to my life anyway. So, anyway,
Yeah,
it's a
I
gift.
also
I
heard that
believe
a lot
God gave
before.
me that gift to connect and relate to anybody on a human basis.
I also heard that a lot before, like, don't trust anyone, the only one you can trust is yourself, and blah blah blah. That's not true. You have to trust other people, and you have to give a little bit of love to get some love.
yeah, true
You
that, Sid.
also
You got to
have
open the
to be
gate.
able,
You got to open the gate or the door
Yeah,
to receive and
yeah.
give. If you want to give to
If you
someone, you still got to
don't,
open the door. Yeah,
then that's when people get in trouble.
yeah. And what happens?
Testing,
Aha, we've been
Hmm?
waiting for your wisdom,
testing,
Nace. Go for it, my brother.
testing. 1, 2, 3.
You're testing.
NSA?
To love me
I thought you
or
said
not to
Stian.
love me. If Sid could listen, it would make me so happy.
I'm listening.
Love. I love that bison burger that I just chowed down as I got the opportunity to listen to everybody. And I really love because there's a circle in the center of it. And if I think of love in the full spectrum, love itself being at one dichotomy, the other side would be fear. And being at the pinnacle of emotions, it would be only two emotions, love and fear, and everything is underneath that. And I do not believe that we are born with love, that we learn love, that we have a tendency to reflect on the vibration of what occurs. And when we get that unconditional love, whether it be from our mother, our father, or other relationships cruising on the path of existence, me, myself, and I can say I love you, universe, because you cannot have a universe without you and I. And not being able to see, but to see each individual in their miraculous perfection of unique individualism as a spark in my darkness. And I can love that spark. I can love that existence of another individual. I do not have to like what they say or what they do, but I can absolutely love that miracle.
Can
And so
I
I can
please be a
say,
spark in your darkness?
so I can, yeah, as soon as I finish. but to recognize that love and to give that love is the challenge, because in my experience it is easier to have somebody fear you than to love you, because in order to have someone love you, you have to love them. And we are so afraid, especially myself, that we will not get that love in return, and that we're fearful of not getting that love. And when I'm able to get past that fear of thinking I need someone else's love, then I can love even more. And in my own situation, I find myself loving others more than I love myself. Because if I ultimately truly loved myself, I would not have eaten that bison burger. I would
I
not have
think that's
eaten
quite
those
normal.
things that I know are not beneficial to the vessel that houses the essence, my soul, my energy. But I can
Those
respect
take away good
that
word.
and give what love to myself that I can. But I myself find it easier to love others, because when others recognize my love, I see that spark get brighter. And so if I can help other people brighten their own spark, then I feel that love even greater. But that was a lot. Okay, I love you. Say hi.
Can I give you a hug now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, here's a virtual hug for you.
Hey,
My
Sid,
favorite
speak up.
emotion of it.
Sid, can you speak up? I can't hear you. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah, I hear you now.
It looks like I'm loading again. Oh, my phone's like
Okay, so
heating up
speak up
like a
and speak.
motherfucker.
No, just speak up so we can hear what you say, okay?
I thought it was okay.
It is now. I can hear you perfectly. Sorry.
Um, I thought I was using. Maybe I'm not using my headset.
You're all good, Sid. Sorry. You're all good.
But one question I have for the group is when we say the word love, is it our definition of love that we say, or is it our definition of love that we hear?
Well, and there's the silent
No
crickets
idea.
again. And I agree, because that comes back to the what happens when love hits the individual and you send it out. It changes because it's governed by that person now, unless they're unconditional. Because people have conditions on their love in an average way until they look at them and go,
There's a lot of conditional love, but there's also a lot of free love.
yeah, I think it's our mission individually to make the best of what we got, and just keep on refining your love, I suppose, and checking it out as you go, and check it out before you give it out, and ask why you're giving that love out. Are you giving that love out so you can get something back, or are you giving it freely?
I agree. I give free hugs.
Realize the love that you have.
I thought I had a grasp on what love was until I witnessed my daughter Infinity being born. And that just wrecked me. It imploded me and exploded me at the same time. And I realized what love was. When she came out of the water, she had a water birth, and she came out like directly at me, and she had her eyes open and was looking right into my soul. And they lifted her up out of the water and they gave her to me. I'm going to start crying.
Oh,
But that's okay.
That's pure unconditional
Means
love.
you're a regular person.
And then that's when I absolutely realized what love was. Is when I saw my child, and I had two children prior to Infinity, but I was involved with the development as my partner was incubating this child who didn't ask. She didn't ask for me and her mother to screw around and create her. We did that to her. And so all I knew from that moment on is I just need to give this entity everything of me. And that's when I realized this is what love is when you're willing to give everything of you to that other individual. And there is nothing that I've ever experienced.
Isn't that what they call unconditional love?
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing more piercing straight to the core than what your children can do.
But most people only have like maybe one or two people that they like have unconditional love to. Like you would do anything for them. A lot of people have maybe 4 or 5 friends that you would do quite a lot for, but it's not unconditional love. You would, it's not the same thing.
True. So,
do
you think it's ever possible for the world to have unconditional love more than anything else?
No.
You don't?
Easy answer.
I'm agreeing with Sid because they're too distracted. They're perpetually bombarded with information, propaganda, their phones in their hands 24/7.
Yeah, too many other things to worry about.
Their minds are too preoccupied with other stuff to be still.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
And everybody's at a very different place in their reality. I mean, it would be nice to think, but we're not all on the same. We're not all in the same class.
Of course.
I don't mean class of people, but I mean learning lesson is a better word. I think we're all at different places, and I'm not sure, again, what this class is. Maybe this class is not about that, Luna. I don't know.
If it was, I think we're all on an individual. This class we have right now, I don't think it's about anything. It's about general knowledge.
Oh, I think there's more to it than just because you got to have the flame and the oil.
Well, that's what I call it, but hey, I'm Norwegian. And we
And
talk about this stuff all the time.
yeah, and culturally, our mob, it's all about love and caring for each other because you don't survive without it here. If you don't care for each other and love each other, it don't work here. Traditionally, anyway. Now's a different story because we've got a lot of different people here, but still, basically, love. Still stand on love. I think there's another word for love. There must be another word for love that describes it better. Maybe a word that we don't know. But
Where does passion and consciousness play into this?
Well, your consciousness is what makes you feel love and hate. If there was no consciousness, you would not have any love word.
I know. But what about when you feel something and then you become conscious that it's like, oh, I feel warm and fuzzy, and then you become
Well,
conscious
then
you
you
feel
have
warm and fuzzy.
consciousness.
You know? Whoa, tricky.
Yeah.
All right.
We're made out of the consciousness. The consciousness is like the mastermind there, and out of that comes your good brain, your bad brain, and your middle brain, and you think about this and that.
All right,
That's where your life develops.
we'll talk about the brain and the effect of love on the brain. And just from having this discussion, I've witnessed love silence us all. Just talking about it silenced our thoughts. Our feelings kept going, but it silenced our thoughts. There's more to this. We might have to come back and talk about this again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I
thought-provoking.
think this has been the toughest roundtable to try to define. I think it's not been easy.
No, it isn't.
Agree with that.
And I think given the time that the world's in, the fact that it's standing out so much like a white dot on a blackboard because we need as much unconditional love as we can get, it's actually made us look deeper into it. And I want to thank Creator in a way for the upheaval we're having because it's made us address the finer things of life. Love being one of them.
Hey, Sharon,
100,000%.
I want to show you something, Sharon. Look at this.
Okay. You mean on your video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sid, are you on camera? I see a black screen.
Yeah, I see a black screen too.
No,
So do I.
On my screen, I'm on video.
And that's okay, because if you're going to watch this show on YouTube, you're going to see a black screen as well.
You know, it's what's being said, not seen
That's right.
at the moment. And what people are, what energy people are sensing from this and absorbing from this is the most important. That's the only reason I personally am here.
So I got another question. If love had a colour, what colour would it be?
Purple.
All colors. All colors. Pastel,
Rainbow.
gold,
Clear.
vibrant,
Clear.
muted.
Clear.
No color at all.
Ooh, that's good.
See, from what I'm hearing, it can be everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Depending on what kind of love you're experiencing, like parenting or boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, your pets.
I guess that's why I said all colors.
Yeah.
Because even within the same relationship, it can go from hot red to cool blue real fast.
Yeah.
In feelings, not in actions necessarily.
Well, I think that's one of the scariest things of love when I talk about my Holy Trinity, where love is at one spectrum and then you have content and fear at the other one. That as far into love that you are able to go, you can go just as far into fear. And it sometimes can be like a slingshot from where your center is, that you go way, 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 way out there and you stretch that rubber band all the way to that far reaches of love, and something instantaneously can snap you back beyond neutrality and go into that fear.
Yeah.
I have a question. Anybody who cares to just throw it on out there on the round table. What is one word that tells you the opposite of love?
Fear.
Is it? We had that discussion. What was the opposite of fear? That was our first round table discussion. We had like 7 different answers.
Well, I mean, I think with love, like the differences
The op-
kind of vary on the type of love. I mean, love,
What?
hate, and fear is also an opposite of love. I think it depends on the situation.
I would say the opposite of love is the absence of love.
Which, how would that communicate to you? How would that be perceived by you? Like, oh, love is absent now.
There is no love here. So if there's no love there, other things are existing.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so it's what is not there.
Yeah.
How do you know?
So if
Anti-love?
how do I know? I just feel it. I don't know. All my senses, I feel it. See it. It's like a whole
For
encapsulating
me,
thing.
it's indifference. I don't care one way or another. I don't care what you feel, think, want, or believe.
Right.
I just really do no longer care. Indifference is the opposite of love. It lacks passion. It lacks everything to do with love. They're disengaged. They're gone.
It's kind of like what you were talking about with the baby. If you just shoved the bottle in their mouth and left the room, that's total indifference. So,
Yes.
yeah, I
Thank
agree
you,
with you.
Sharon. Yeah. And
But would it
it is.
also,
Go ahead.
but when you talk about that in the metaphor of the baby, now circumstances may arise where there are occurrences of where you have to prop the baby up and give the baby the bottle and not be able to have that closeness of holding the baby and feeding the baby. But then if you look at the number of times that continues, this is when I was talking about, like, I think we learn what love is, that we have the ability to sense that vibration, because how when they talk about attention, where a child will do something positive for attention, and if they're not getting any positive attention, then they'll do something negative for attention. I think those occurrences are the same within love.
I like
Where if we think of all the senses, does love need to have all the senses? Because if it's something that's within you eternally, then why do some people feel that love has to be sex or touch? And that's one thing that I've noticed, with some partners that I've had, where it's like, intimacy isn't the same as love.
Yeah,
Right.
agree.
Let's go back to the comment about the baby leaving the baby. I mean, first of all, you could give the baby, you could prop the baby up on the couch with the bottle and be talking to the baby, and the baby knows you love it. I mean, you could be busy and someone's coming over and the doorbell's ringing and the phone's ringing or whatever, and you got your eye on the baby, but you're talking to the baby. Everyone knows uh, whether you how you feel about them, whether everybody acknowledges that or not. I mean, it's actually your vibration, your frequency, as Jules has said. It isn't that you shove the bottle in the baby's face. It's how you act. It's how you interact. It's how you are when you're around the baby, right? Because the baby feels a part of. So there you are. You've got him on the couch. And the baby's actually a part of the doorbell ringing and the phone ringing, and you're talking and you're jumping up and down on the couch yourself. So it's just all in how you interact with all of this stuff.
Is that how sociopathy is developed? When a child goes through the experience of not getting love?
That's a very interesting question. I read a lot of murder mysteries. I just love those stupid books. I just love them.
They're not
I
stupid if
I,
they're true.
I wonder. I was just going to say one thing real quick, Connie. I wonder if in that case it is a combination of the dysfunctional parents, but the something inside the human, because other humans have the same experience with those kinds of very dysfunctional parents. They don't choose to grow up and become a serial killer, but combination for some, and it could be that that person was going to do that anyway because there is something inside them. Either they were born without a conscience, they didn't have the conscience gene, they don't have the God gene, they don't have the love gene, they don't feel anything. And that's the definition of these sociopaths or whatever. They have no feeling. They don't understand feeling. They can only copy and see. They don't understand it.
Hey, that brings me to a question. Do you think past lives have anything to do with the amount of love we carry when we come into our next life?
I do. I do. I think so.
I do as well.
I don't believe in past life.
That's okay.
I know it's okay. I just thought I'd throw it on the round table. Just throw it on out there.
Yeah, I was just looking. I'll write an example maybe. I know a person in their last life was an SS officer in the Second World War, German officer, and they worked in a camp, one of those camps, and I've watched this person punish themselves for what they did. They starved themselves, they kept themselves contained to one area, they managed to get themselves in trouble and get beaten up, and I'm watching this life and it's reminding me just like being in one of the camps, except it's in a different setting. And I watched this person get to a certain age when they started to forgive themselves for what they done, and their life started to change for the better. And I looked at this person, I thought, wow, I know they have a lot of love, but somewhere inside, from the inside to whatever happened in their past life like that and coming to this life, it was a big struggle for them to bring it to the surface. And I watched it happen. And I look at other people that I know too, and the kind of people they are now and where they come from, and I always see this spark of pure love fighting to come to the surface. They could be one of the meanest people you ever know, but there's still a speck of love in there.
Yeah. To answer your question in a different way, I do believe that love can be brought over from past lives enough to the point where I have a friend that we knew in this lifetime we would find each other by name. So there was some kind of connection there. And the love that we have now, it's indescribable. I mean, it's a love like I've never experienced. I mean, we're just, she's just my best friend, but she's also a sister. So to answer that question, yes.
Okay.
Well, I pondered it in my past life when I was a whore of Babylon. That is why in this life I just give love away for free.
Are you being serious? You really were?
I don't know.
Okay.
I've made the joke. Well, I don't know if you want to say it's a joke, but when they talk about like karma, you know, in that balance, you know, it's you know, who knows? Maybe in a past life, I was one of those Romans in the in the Roman circus when they were throwing the Christians to the lions. You know, because if we are to, you know, for the sake of argument, say there is past lives, you know, if the Earth is 3.5 billion years old, then you more than likely have experienced anything and everything you can imagine that a human could go through in that many years.
Right.
So
That's
what
where I
happens?
wonder when we come here, some of the things that we choose not to do, we've already A, done, or B, learned our lesson.
So what happens in
Right.
the past? Sorry.
Oh, the only thing I was going to say is obviously I didn't learn it about alcohol until, and I had to re-remember it in my 30s. It's like, okay, we're done here. You know, you've drank enough for 6 lifetimes again. No, we're going to stop doing this and we're going to move on. You know, so maybe the next, if I have to do this again, hopefully not, it's like we cannot do that. You know, I don't know. I don't know how, you know, I think really, yeah, Donnie, I think you're right. We need the lesson. I think at the end of the day, I'm beginning to think this is just a giant classroom. I think that what we're going through right now, humanity has to go through it to wake up. Unfortunately, it's uncomfortable and horrible and not very fun. But I don't think humanity's going to wake up any other way. I think they've given us a lot of time. I also think very strongly that we chose to come here to be a part of this in a way of being able to practice who we are.
Well, if that's the truth, then when I was making that decision to come here, I was pretty freaking drunk.
I was too. Very drunk, by the way. Thank you, Naysay, and agreed. And I came right in drinking, so because I started drinking pretty early. So yeah, I agree. I drank my way through here. But
Well, one
as I watch the awake people and the awoke people, the jib jab and the non jib jab, what's making people make those choices? Right? I mean, it's really interesting. How does everybody know what they know? How does everybody? I mean, I find this whole division thing very interesting.
Well,
Because
would we
I
not?
could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, Naysay. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of the street. How do I know? Maybe the rest of those guys are. Oh, what's wrong with the jib jab? You know, I don't know.
Well,
It's crazy.
If we use the
I
metaphor
took
of the
it.
choice of taking, you know, taking the shot or not taking the shot, could we not even think of that same thing as love? You know, where
Right.
we have love in the center, and at one spectrum we think we know what love is, and on the other spectrum we don't have a clue. You know, so that's one thing where I find the beauty in everything. You know, when I step back from the center far enough so I can see the full spectrum, you know, because like I said, I can continue to love you and not like what you do or say. Because even though I am not willing to take the vaccine, I can still love somebody for their want or need of taking it.
Right.
And
Understood.
I just, I have to minimally I have to tolerate that. I don't have to accept it. I don't have to accept anything about anybody, but minimally I have to tolerate it because we're all here together. And
Right.
to think that somebody would get so mad that they would want to cause harm to another individual, that's where I get dumbfounded. Because when I was a kid, I was a very angry kid, and I didn't start a fight. But if you got into my face, it wasn't like let's bark back and forth a little bit. You stepped up to me and you're down. It was like,
Hmm.
okay. And I was just waiting and wanting, like, come on, step up to me. Let's go. But I wouldn't start fights.
Right. I don't know. I was pretty angry at a very early age as well. Right. Very, very warrior like. Like, what the hell is going on in this planet? And I don't like it and I want to change it. And that was a passion in me probably around 13. It started at 13. So, and as a girl, as a female, right? I saw things that I felt like weren't fair to females. And so maybe we all came in here as warriors, right? Connie, you're saying the same thing. Maybe that's who we are. We're spiritual warriors and we came in and we had to come in strong. We had to come here strong because we were going to be here. And so we had to know our own minds. We had to know our own minds from the very beginning, which I did. And we had to stand in that standing, as I think, as Polly said, we stand in the understanding.
As a Anishinaabe, I'm taught by my elders that they kind of divide us into four parts, where it's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So in those four parts is love there.
Whoa, the lights here just flickered, and they say, I think there's love in everything. You just got to
Yeah.
recognise it and find it.
Love is so much a part of nature that it, like, okay, trees can send nutrients through the root system to their offspring if they know that their offspring are lacking in certain nutrients. So I don't even, like, love has been around. I think it could be an actual driver of the way life actually works.
Yeah, because I've watched animals, and like when another animal dies, you can actually see them grieving. So that means they love that animal, like they had love to feel grief and loss.
Yeah.
And
How many YouTubes have we seen like that too, Luna?
yeah, like I said, there's more to this, and I'm surprised human beings haven't delved into this deeper. We've been around for a long time, and did we understand it at one point, and then it was taken away and cloaked and masked and twisted, and now we're in this situation. I remember watching a really old black and white movie once, and it showed you a little bit of street scene, and they had signs in the street that were like, shine, you are loved, be happy. And my jaw fell to the ground, and I got a glimpse of the past, and I realised just for a second that there was a time where love was number one, and people supported people in spiritual and emotional areas by having just happy signs everywhere. And not long after that, I actually went travelling, and I went to this little town, and as I was walking around looking at the shops, and there was this big sign that said "Have a Happy Day," and it reminded me of the old movie thing that I saw with the happy signs in the back. So I feel like we've had it, we know what it is, and someone's twisted it around and put something in front of our eyes to go, no, you didn't see it, it wasn't like that. And they've delivered us just fear and destruction, trying to make us believe, oh, it was always like this. And
Bingo.
I don't believe. My spirit, my soul, my fibre remembers a time where unconditional love reigned supreme.
When you said that, Luna, I had this vision of people just buying chalk, sidewalk chalk, and then just going around to the corners and stuff and just writing "love you."
Oh.
And just going around the whole city and just writing that like at every corner and on the intersections.
I'll do that tonight. Because I do shit like that.
Because I when we started the discussion, and then Sharon, when I heard you talking about about the word being hijacked, during the whole conversation I kept going back to that, because it from my perspective, that's really sad. That really pains me, because isn't love more of what you make of it than what somebody else makes of it? Because I have diffused many situations when people get angry with me, or when people are getting angry with each other, and I'll just be like, wait 1 second, please, let me say this, please, I love you.
But look at the game. The game is to take humanity, do the Great Reset, and turn us all into transhuman Borgs. So, again, listening to Jay and listening to Robert Phoenix, and I think all of us know this anyway, this all started at least 100 years ago. Again, they knew this big change was coming. You guys knew it was coming. It was foretold in your group as well as Luna and Donnie's group. You guys knew this was coming, right? We all know. And they started grabbing this because they knew this was coming, and they wanted to direct it so they could control it and have it be the way they want it to be. And that's what this whole game is about for them. That's what this Great Reset is about. And our brains get it's easy for us to forget stuff. We're all distracted. We've got the iPhones, we've got all this stuff. But yet all of us are standing here saying, we're not going to go down this road. We're wise enough, awake enough to see some things are going down a road we're not going to go. I don't want to be a Borg. None of us here do. That's all I'm saying. Well, so I think we have to take it. All I'm saying, they say, is we have to be aware. All right, let me do the I word. I have to be aware that for me, the word, somewhere along the line, the word got hijacked. And I have to choose to rethink how I use the word and where I am when I'm using it. And I feel like humanity is being scrubbed from all humanness because they find us repellent, when actually I find that the fact that humans, we are connected to planet Earth. We are made of the planet. We are made of the stars. That's what we're made of. I truly believe that. We are a big part of this planet. They are so freaking stupid what they're doing, because ultimately it's a ridiculous thing they want to accomplish.
That's interesting that you brought that up, because I used to do these things called Babbling On in Babylon all the time on Facebook, and I would use 15 seconds of songs and of different sound clips, and I found this clip where this doctor talks about if you break down all of the particulates that the human body is, it is of the rarest elements on the planet Earth. Whereas if you thought we were of this planet, we would have an abundant of all of the particulates that are abundantly found on the Earth. Yet we as humans are of those rarest materials.
Right.
But one thing that I wanted to bring back on what you were talking about the powers that should not be. When we look at the full spectrum, I think we can all agree that people are going to be positive, neutral, and negative. And so I don't think the powers that should not be, would be able to make everybody be negative. But like the early riots in LA, it was less than 7% of the populace caused those riots. So it doesn't take a lot, to incite mob mentality,
Right.
because they initiate it, and then at some point, the trigger effect, the exponential rate will increase and chaos will ensue. But no matter how chaotic it gets, there'll still be those on the fringe, I guess you could say, that will be still standing in order.
Well, remember the Revolutionary War for the United States of America, right? How small a percentage was it people that signed the Constitution that believed in it and fought the Revolutionary War? If we're to believe history, or any of the things that where you all came from, your mob or your tribe, right? There's probably moments in your creation, in your history, or maybe even a smaller percentage than you could have imagined, kept it together. It's a very powerful thing. So we are important. It's the first for what we do here. I think we are important, and we have a role to play in this, and it's part of our growth. And I still feel like we came here during this time to 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 be a part of this.
So then ultimately, would the question come to, how do we generate more love? If love is the answer, then how do we utilize that for people's questions?
I'll take the word back and then figure out. Well, for it sounds like a lot of you guys already have your idea of what it is, and you're already you're comfortable. I'm going to continue to work on how I feel and be comfortable. All I can tell you is it's an inside job, right? And all I can do is try to be the best nano girl I can be. That's it. That's all at this point, they say, it's all I got. It's everything I can do to do that every day.
Yeah, I kind of agree, Sharon. I take my love and I'll try to be as responsible as I can with it, and be love and do my part and be it. When I'm not being it, I'll remind myself to be it. And I know this come into my head. What would love say about that? If love could talk, what would it say to us?
But even if you can't do love, there's other words on that spectrum, the higher spectrum of thought and frequency. You could be peace.
Yes.
You could be the best. Sometimes I can't get to love that day, so I choose peace, or I choose grace, or I choose confidence or strength or courage. If the most I'm going to be able to demonstrate is courage, that's good enough for me. So I've learned to just accept where I am every day.
Do you think that if you walk in healing and you kind of walk in a manner of healing, that's a love, a form of love, healing?
Yeah, I think so. It's a very powerful word.
And love can.
Well, I sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say you can use love to heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think wanting to heal somebody is an act of love. Anyway, go on.
Yep.
Go on, Naysay, I'll just chuck that in.
Well, it made me ponder about, because my Niawe, my namesake, the entity that gave me my Anishinaabe name, my spiritual name, he told me that, I'm not a healer, because people looked at him as what they call a medicine man. And he would be like, I'm not a healer. He would say he was a conduit.
Yep.
Because the universe is the healer.
Yep.
Right.
And that he was just a conduit to have that energy of the universe come through him and assist people in healing.
A conduit of love.
Right?
Or any of those other powerful words.
Yes, if you
Again.
can't do love. Actually, when you mentioned that, Sharon, I thought, there's another word like that. I can't even think of it off the top of my head, but a lot of people prefer to use other words. It's like it can be like a generic word, love. Well, it means this, it
Yeah.
means that, it means this, it means that, it means this. Yeah, so if you can't do that one concentrated word, love, do kindness, do
Yeah.
grace, do
Ab-
patience,
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
do all those
You're
other
still
things.
going to leave the room in a better space than you found it,
Yeah.
because you're consciously saying, and maybe what you're consciously saying too is, maybe I can't reach the top of the pyramid. There's a pyramid that tells you all these really good words where you're in a good vibration. So it's, courage, love, like I said, confidence, grace, all these healing, all that. If you're having one of those days, or gratitude's another great word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why not spread gratitude for the day? Be the conduit for gratitude.
Yeah.
And I think if you can practice these top 10 areas in this pyramid, you're going to still leave the planet in a better place. And then I think it's going to get easier to reach the top of it as you practice the ones that maybe even feel a little bit lower. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they actually rate them. Like this, you get 400 points for this and 500 points for that. So sometimes I'll think I'll just go for the 300.
Yeah, and do 200 later.
Exactly. It's like door number 1 or door number 2. I'm doing door number 2 today for 300. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you have to do gratitude. Okay, I can do that.
No, I agree, because you've probably heard me say, and I say it at the end of every show, love to you on this day. And I always say, I say it like that because tomorrow I might not be at that same vibration. I might not have the intensity of love that I have today for whatever reason.
Right.
I might be tired. I might be very busy. Who knows? But it's always there at just different intensities,
If
And it's a way of honoring and loving ourselves by being truthful with ourselves. It's like, well, this is the best I can do today, and that's okay. As far as I'm concerned, that's okay.
And actually, that
so in the go ahead, sorry.
no, go, because I'm going to change the direction. So,
Uh-oh.
Well,
well-
4 hours.
Well, when we
So I
were,
took the pill at.
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
I
when
feel
I
like
took
I've
my
been
last
talking a
pill.
lot.
I gotta wait 2 more hours then.
okay.
Well, if it's the happy joy pill,
Sure.
take it now.
Yeah, I can take it now.
My question just was about truth in love, because I never
I'm pretty
known
sure I did.
I never
If
known
if I was able to, I took one.
I've never known love to lie. We can think it lied, but in its true self, it doesn't lie. It is what it is, and when it is.
Well, that's so. I was going to bring up another metaphor that I bring up a lot about the sphere, and if I look at another entity as a sphere, and as we were talking about the whole full spectrum of of it, if love is on one side, then fear is on the other. And so if you are loving somebody and you look at the sphere of another individual and love is the side of the sphere that's facing you, then all of that fear is so far beyond your looking at love. This is when we were talking about love is blind, because you're so caught up in facing that side of the sphere that's nothing but love, you don't
I
see
wrote something
the
wrong. Funny,
fear
it was
beyond
silly.
it. And that's almost kind of like the same as you as an individual in the center of a sphere. If you are facing love, then that's all that's in front of you, and your fear is behind you. And so how do we step beyond, our sphere so we can see the whole spectrum of it, and then making that decision of, is this love positive or is this love negative?
And there's those crickets again.
Yeah, I'm thinking they say that was good.
Well, I hope it was something that was understanding and not like, what the hell did he just say?
Too many words for me, but that's okay. I deal with it.
At least I'm not alone. Hi, everybody. I'm muting up. I just woke up.
G'day.
Hi,
I'm glad
Dad.
I made it.
Welcome
Good
to
morning,
Saturday.
good
We're glad
morning.
you're here.
Okay, so I reckon we're going to round this conversation up now. I think we've explored enough for the time being. I might in the future come back to this same subject. Now we've spoken about it and we can go away and absorb everything that everyone said, and perhaps in the future come back, because I feel we'll have a better understanding next time we come back. So if anyone wants to take it off, we'll all have a turn and just round up this evening's discussion. What is love? And who wants to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. This was another really excellent roundtable discussion. And just by participating, I learned a lot, and it actually affirmed what I had been feeling, but it makes me feel like I'm not alone, that other people are also sort of grappling or understanding or participating or giving all kinds of thoughts to this word. So it kind of opens up the window for me, and I really appreciate everybody's input today. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. That was good. Everything you said, everything everybody said, all connected with me.
Because we're all connected.
Ah, durr.
For me, coming here and chatting in Discord after a bad day, and I'm not at my top game, and I'll yarn with Luna and you, Connie, and by the end of the day, I'm uplifted to the point where, and here's the question I posed: does anybody else, when they've got that love vibe going, they feel the zzz in their ears?
The high pitched
I get
sound.
warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. But for me, this round table, I learned things that I didn't realize that were perceivable, and I'm reevaluating things from and looking at it from a different stance. But the overall theme, I have to say, I love each and every one of you because you are uplifting and you are raising vibrations, and collectively together as a group, all this energy getting together, people are bound to be drawn to it.
Wow.
Nice.
Yep. Polly, you gonna round it off for us in the corner?
Yeah, I want to say that the importance of self-love is imperative here. And the easiest way to self-love is to put the I in love and just simply live. the way that you are meant to live. And obviously, if you do that within certain parameters that I think nature itself dictates, you will be a conduit of love for whoever you're around.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Love, am I hearing you say that love comes out of your being? It's not what you do, it's who you are or who you're becoming. You just do it.
Yeah, it's like you can't avoid hearing something. It's something that happens outside of you, and your senses interpret it as a noise. Love works the same way, except instead of coming outside of you and going in, it comes from inside of you and it goes out.
And the way you put it to me, I forget, but it was something about instead of being you being the interpreter, love comes in and tells you what's what. Do you remember
Yeah,
saying?
it's almost like a law, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there is a law of love.
Yeah, there is, I believe, an LORE law, a universal guideline law.
Yeah, we just know.
You know, I got a little song that says that love is our oxygen that we breathe. It is. Because we
What
can.
the world needs now is love, sweet love.
It's gonna take a lot of love.
That's too little love. I love that
Well,
song. Oh, I just
the
used
only the only words I can think for the end of this is don't make love by the garden gate. Love is blind, but the neighbors ain't.
Oh, that one's good.
Oh, I love
like
that. Yeah, I do too. Well, on that note, we'll round it
And
off.
consensual love, please.
Yes.
I just want to thank
Always.
everyone for contributing today, and thank everyone that's listening out there. And thank Creator for making all the things possible, and love to you on this day. And I hope you all join us
Yes.
next week. And we'll see what we can come up with next week, what is. And yeah, thank you very much. It's been a very interesting yarn, I've got to say that. And we'll leave it till next week. Yalu, everyone.
Love you.
Hallelujah.
Love
Yalu,
you.
love you.
I love you.
Love you too.
I love you.
Yeah, I love ya.